the Vital Grant really came into effect when we had an upper school faculty meeting about 2 years ago, and Travis had talked about how do we identify the life of a student. And so when we were looking at how athletics plays a role in working with the academic piece and the arts piece, I really wanted to look to see how practices were being monitored, how were practices being structured. And so doing research into different monitoring devices for athletes, we actually came upon Catapult. Catapult is a piece of technology that they use at some of the highest levels of professional sports and at the collegiate level, mainly to look at the structure of their practices, to look at volume versus intensity of practices, and how we can manage that on a larger scale, but also on an individual scale. The units themselves measure over 1,000 data points a second. We're really looking at a key couple of data points such as speed, high speed yardage we call it, body load, heart rate, acceleration and deceleration, and running symmetry. I think the biggest thing with high school athletes now is that they are overworked and under-recovered to some aspect. And so any way that we can find a way to limit the risk of injury, limit the stress, the amount of stress that we see in practices and games, that we want to try to do that. So one of the metrics that we take is called running symmetry, and we can actually see if there's an imbalance between the right and the left leg in terms of force generation and the number of foot strikes. Prior to injury, there's about a 5% difference, or buffer zone we call it. So an athlete may not say something to a coach, or it may not necessarily show itself in a big way in practices, but sometimes those metrics will start to creep up, and we can ask the question of, why is this athlete favoring the right or left? The usage of this device can be so much more than what it is. And so we can take that device and learn how to adapt it to a physics lab. Can we have students go out and do physical activity in a physics class and get all this data, and then go ahead and analyze it and break it down?
Our students love sports and being outside, and we want to incorporate the outdoors as much as possible into our middle school curriculum. We have already in place developed a really fun fitness routine project where the students come up with their own fitness routine. So with the Catapult system, we can elevate their routines. Instead of just feeling where it hurts, they can actually have hard data back up where the burn is felt and which movements their body is working the hardest in. We will look at movements like plank holds, push-ups, movements that you're not using a lot of oxygen, and then we'll look at the same students going around the track a few times. And what we always teach in science is you do 3 different trials at least, so you have your baseline. Then you can look at the interesting things where the data starts to deviate from your baseline. So if you're fatigued or if you're feeling winded, and we can think about, okay, why is this data deviating? And that's where the science of feeling fatigued comes in. I think one of the beautiful things about Penn Charter is that we let our students do a lot of, take the lead on curriculum. And if the students are interested in another aspect of data that the Catapult system brings to light, we can allow that to happen.
This piece of technology is a perfect example of what we're looking for in the strategic vision, and using innovation and collaboration to reinvent the classroom and expand the classroom, and that we can not only pique the interest of our students, but we can also make changes in the athletic setting that are going to put our students' best interests first.